Picture an evening when the world collectively held its breath, waking up to a strange stillness. Half of the human race labeled as men were absent. No warnings or explanation, just a mysterious vacuum that rippled into every dimension of living. The busy streets, which resounded with different voices, began to sound strangely hollow. This isn't science fiction, though it's more of a provocative exercise of imagination. What happens to a linchpin in human society that disappears overnight? People will be shell-shocked and perplexed. The global body would begin reeling around to digest such an unthinkable truth. People will mourn over families and stop their work altogether. Even everyday life would fall apart on all its fronts. Yet, as the turmoil slowly subsides, the globe will start to re-level. Industries will adjust, leadership will follow, and cultural norms will alter to fit the newly emerging wholes. From hardline considerations like population sustainability to the more emotional losses at play, this provides us with a mirror for what is currently happening. It challenges us to look at how interconnected we all are, and how resilient a human being can be if faced with monumental change. Could such a world stabilize, or would the imbalances push it past being repairable? Let's walk into this other world, exploring its potential stories, its challenges, and the surprises it will bring. A jolt to the world. Immediately, people would react emotionally and logistically. There would be family chaos when fathers, brothers, and sons were not there. It would create an invisible wave of grief among the families as the people mourned for them. The community would feel confused over how and why this was possible while processing the loss they faced. At the macro level, workforces would feel the jolt, most especially in areas like construction, law enforcement, and heavy manufacturing, which remain more male-oriented. There would be an immediate demand to reshape the void left by the critical absence of these male representatives. Thus, a frantic role and responsibility realignment. Governments and institutions would come under huge pressure to fill the holes left in leadership positions vacated by men, while entire systems were strained to readjust to this new order of things. Amid the grief and chaos, another level of response would emerge, a reckoning with social norms and interdependence. The disappearance of men would expose the complex ways gender roles have shaped the world, forcing people to question long-standing traditions. It is a moment of both despair and revelation, the beginning of a difficult journey to rebuild and redefine society in the absence of half its population. It would result in seismic shocks in the entire globe due to a shortage of a complete portion of its male-dominated sectors: construction, agricultural production, mining, and law-enforcing staff. There might initially be challenges from some form of resistance due to these transitional challenges from males into these spaces held mainly by females. Related sectors that rely on physical work like heavy machinery and manual trade may also increase the deployment of robotics and AI technologies. In the meantime, women-dominated industries like education, health, and social services would most likely play a greater role in the economy. The rebalancing of economic priorities could also occur as the traditional underpaid professions receive greater attention and support. Corporate cultures would likely change as well, from more hierarchical and competitive to more collaborative and inclusive. The absence of men would also reveal stark inequalities in workforce participation, especially in regions with rigid gender roles. This would challenge societies to rethink labor systems and prioritize inclusivity, reshaping the global economy through necessity. The transition would test humanity's adaptability, demanding innovation and resilience on an unprecedented scale. In the long run, a world without men would necessitate deep changes in all aspects of society, so there would be a whole new global structure. At first, women would fill roles once held by men, but in the long term, Systems would adjust for sustainability, efficiency, and equity. This process probably would involve the advance of technology, social norms changing, and a review of the structures of governance and cultural priority. Reproductive technology would head the list of adaptations. Human beings would be almost reliant on advanced means such as artificial insemination, cloning, or other high-level techniques for maintaining population growth when natural reproduction is impossible. Societies would continue their ethical debates over the uses of such technologies in their struggle to sustain the species, with competing interests for broad access and genetic diversity. The economic landscape would undergo drastic changes in a world without men, led by the lack of male-dominated industries and the urge to change rapidly. Construction, manufacturing, and agriculture industries would face a sharp dislocation at first. They are labor-intensive and employ more men. Therefore, the abrupt disappearance of the former would call for an instant shift towards automation, robotics, and technological innovation to meet the gap. Women would most likely assume these positions, but there would be a steep learning curve and large investments in retraining and education to bridge the gap in skills. On the other hand, more female-preponderant industries like healthcare, education, and social services would probably receive more attention and resources, transforming the economy into a more service-based and community-oriented one. There would also be a tendency to reassess economic goals, focusing more on sustainability, social welfare, and equity. More women in top positions would probably lead to policies that reduce inequality and support global cooperation. In the long term, it could develop into a more balanced system that emphasizes innovation, equity, and sustainability. This would mean crossing over huge initial hurdles, especially in regions where patriarchal structures have deeply influenced economic systems. Cultural and social changes would redefine how societies function, challenge long-held norms, and reshape interpersonal dynamics. At the heart of these transformations lies the question of gender roles and the reimagining of traditions once dominated by patriarchal systems. The immediate disappearance of men would force societies to reevaluate and often abandon entrenched gender norms. Patriarchal structures, which are embedded into laws, cultural practices, and societal expectations, would no longer be relevant. Instead, a new structure based on equality and inclusiveness would emerge. Education, literature, and media, which have been dominated by the male narrative for centuries, would begin to celebrate matriarchal achievements and start to understand history in a new light. This might bring a balanced and diverse narrative in culture, with women's contributions in areas that have been ignored for so long. Relationships and family structures would also change. Without fathers, brothers, and male partners, personal and communal ties would be deeply influenced to shift societies toward a community-oriented support system. Parenting would become largely the domain of extended families and chosen families as people take responsibility to collectively care for future generations. Even romance would change to reduce traditional binary dynamics, where it becomes increasingly characterized by teamwork and mutual respect. The cultural meaning of safety and conflict could be transformed. Some feminist writers believe that an incipient form of an all-female society would exhibit less aggression and violence, long considered hallmarks of traditional masculinity. This does not mean a utopian world free from conflict, but that there will be an emphasis on the use of social means to resolve problems instead of physical means. Community-oriented norms may characterize these cultures, with a foundation for cooperative rather than competitive societies. Social rituals, holidays, and traditions would also transform to reflect the new societal makeup. Festivals once centered around patriarchal or male-centered figures might be replaced or reinterpreted to honor women's contributions or celebrate collective resilience. The redefinition of cultural milestones, from coming-of-age ceremonies to professional achievements, could inspire future generations to embrace non-traditional paths and celebrate diverse forms of success. The cultural and social changes in a world without men would be a difficult balance of loss, adjustment, and rediscovery. Humanity would have to face its past reliance on binary gender roles and spur the development of more flexible, fair, and just systems. In such a reimagined world, the changes that occur in culture would not only symbolize loss, but also significant opportunities for growth and development. The governance of a world without men would dramatically change the nature of leadership styles and policy priorities. The presence of women in such key roles in global leadership already means that a world without men would likely hasten the emergence of female leaders at all levels of government. Decision-making processes would shift toward more collaborative and inclusive models, away from hierarchical or competitive models typically associated with male-dominated systems. The policies would likely focus more on social welfare, education, healthcare, and sustainability, as if these are the priorities usually found in women-led initiatives. The transition would, however, throw into sharp relief inequalities in regions where patriarchal systems have traditionally excluded women from governance. Societies with long histories of male-dominated governance may take much longer to adjust and may require systemic reforms and grassroots efforts to empower women. Global cooperation may assume another tone, with diplomacy and consent-building assuming more importance than ever in international relations, while technological innovation could be critically important in allowing more efficient and equitable governance systems of sustainable institutions in a world sharply reshaped by necessity. This evolution in governance could address immediate needs, but also provide the foundation for sustained, long-term global change-creating systems that are more competent to face future demands and crises. Ultimately, the long-term adaptations would challenge humanity to accept its capacity for innovation and empathy. This new world would not just compensate for the lack of men, but would redefine itself through a collaborative effort to build a more balanced and equitable society. Human ingenuity would be tested like never before in the capacity for adaptation and resilience that humanity possesses. Innovation and overcoming challenges would be very important in navigating this seismic shift. The global response would feature human ingenuity as society quickly embraced automation, artificial intelligence, and other technological solutions to replace the lost workforce. Women would rise to leadership roles across industries, demonstrating an untapped potential for innovation and problem-solving. As mentioned, this would be a moment that would call for a reimagining of systems of governance, economic models, and societal structures on a collective basis. In addition to technological adaptation, emotional and social resilience in humans would come to the fore. The loss of a gender would require societies to come together in new ways, redefine family, community, and social bonds, and make humanity's ability to empathize, collaborate, and be flexible a pivot point in maintaining stability. The challenge would be deep, but history has proven humans can be extraordinary adapters, given adversity. From rebuilding an economy to redefining relationships, the human spirit finds new ways to grow, proving that in the most unthinkable scenarios, humanity's capability to evolve and thrive can never be filled. In the end, it would be a world where men were absent, which would challenge humanity to redefine itself. The immediate upheaval would be undeniable, as industries, communities, and governments would have to adjust to a new reality. The absence of men would not only create a void, but also an opportunity for societies to rethink gender roles, leadership, and cultural norms. Women would take on the spaces formerly filled by men, driving innovation and leadership at every level in each industry. Societies would change, and new patterns of governance and community may come forth, prioritizing teamwork over competition and diplomacy over violence. The emphasis may well shift from traditional patriarchal structures towards more inclusive and sustainable approaches to governance and economics. Maybe the world would begin to tip toward empathy, cooperation, and innovation, attributes that the future will require to survive and thrive. Despite the huge challenges, humanity's resilience and adaptability would be what guides the world through this transformation. Time might see the world survive and even thrive in new, unexpected ways. But would this world without men be more harmonious? Or would it reveal even deeper issues within society? Only time would tell, but one thing would be certain. The journey of adaptation would reflect the incredible potential of human ingenuity and spirit.